The words hung in the air, heavy with hope and disbelief. Eduardo Sanchez, a towering figure in Monterrey's industrial sector and the proud owner of a booming auto parts factory, gently cradled his 3-year-old son, Luis, in his arms. The rhythmic hum of machines surrounded them, but Eduardo heard only the quiet echo of a sentence that had just been spoken. Just months ago, Luis had been a whirlwind of laughter and energy, racing down the hallways of the factory, waving to workers, and climbing onto workbenches with fearless excitement. He was the sunshine in Eduardo's gray world of production schedules and supplier meetings. But one rainy morning changed everything. A car accident. A flash of metal. Screeching tires, screams, then silence. When Eduardo arrived at the hospital, the news shattered him. Spinal trauma, complete paralysis from the waist down. The doctors delivered their verdicts with clinical precision. There is no cure. He may never walk again. Eduardo refused to accept it. He emptied his accounts, flew to Guadalajara, to Mexico City, even considered clinics in Houston. Every doctor, every specialist repeated the same refrain. No hope. Yet today, in the heart of his factory, surrounded by grease and iron, a humble voice had offered him something priceless. A second chance. "Don Eduardo," said Hector Ramirez, a quiet, unassuming mechanic in his early 40s, with oil-stained hands and eyes that carried both hardship and wisdom. "I know how to heal your son." The factory went still. A wrench clattered to the floor. An engine's roar died mid-turn. Workers turned to watch. The disbelief in the room was so thick it was nearly tangible. Eduardo, whose face had aged years in months, looked up sharply, clutching Luis tighter to his chest. His voice trembled with both fury and fatigue. "Have you lost your mind?" he snapped. "My son was treated by the most respected doctors in the country, surgeons with international awards, and now you, a mechanic, claim to know better?" Hector didn't back down. He didn't bow his head in shame. Instead, he stepped forward, removing his cap with quiet respect. "My brother, Miguel, was paralyzed at the same age. The doctors gave up on him too, but a man named Don Emilio helped him recover. Slowly, gently, without drugs, just faith and persistence. Today, he works lifting bricks in Puebla." Eduardo wanted to scream, to cry, to demand Hector leave. But then, something unexpected happened. Luis stirred. For the first time in weeks, he turned his face toward Hector and smiled, small but unmistakable. Eduardo's heart clenched. It had been days since Luis had reacted to anything. He hadn't laughed, barely spoken. That one smile pierced Eduardo deeper than any medical report ever could. Hector knelt beside them. "I can show you. No promises, but maybe a chance." That night, Eduardo sat in his home office, a whiskey glass untouched, beside a pile of rejected medical charts. Sophia, his wife, paced behind him. "You can't be serious," she said. "You're letting a man who changes oil for a living touch our son?" Eduardo closed his eyes. "He's already touched something in Luis. His spirit." The next morning, with the factory office turned into a makeshift treatment room, Hector began. His hands, usually coarse and powerful, moved gently over Luis's legs, rubbing in slow, circular motions. He whispered little jokes, sang old ranchera songs. He wasn't just massaging muscles. He was reaching into Luis's world, pulling him back from silence. To the factory workers, it looked like madness, but Eduardo saw something else: connection, compassion, and hope. After 2 weeks, Eduardo noticed something. One evening, during a quiet dinner, Luis kicked a toy off the edge of his chair. Eduardo stared, breath held. "Did you move that, Luis?" he asked. Luis blinked, then giggled. Sophia wasn't amused. When she found out, she exploded. Her scream shook the house.
"You're risking everything for a fantasy. You're turning our child into an experiment," she cried. "What if he gets worse? What if we miss a real treatment window because of this nonsense?"
Eduardo stood firm. "He moved, Sophia. He moved." But she wouldn't listen. She took Luis away the next day, back to Dr. Fernando, back to sterile rooms and ice-cold diagnoses. And just like that, the progress faded. The light dimmed in Luis's eyes again. Weeks passed. Then, one morning, Sophia walked through the door, pale and shaken. "I visited Puebla," she said. Eduardo looked up. "I met Miguel," she whispered. "He runs. He carries cement on his back. Eduardo, I was wrong. I'm so sorry." She fell into his arms. They returned to Hector together. From then on, Hector's treatments continued every day. The factory office was converted permanently into a small rehab room. Sophia joined the sessions, learning every movement, every stretch. Progress was slow, but unmistakable. First came toe twitches, then knee lifts. Then, one day, in front of the entire factory staff gathered during a safety seminar, Luis stood. He took one unsteady step, then another, and the room erupted in applause. Eduardo wept openly. Hector simply nodded, a quiet smile on his face. Months passed. Luis grew stronger, faster, more confident. But Eduardo wasn't done. He commissioned a full rehabilitation wing within the factory complex, hiring therapists to learn Hector's methods and combining them with medical practices. The Centro Esperanza Luis Sanchez opened to the public a year later, offering low-cost treatment to children with limited mobility across northern Mexico. Sophia, once skeptical, became its most vocal advocate, sharing Luis's story in interviews, podcasts, and school assemblies. And Hector? He declined promotions, medals, and even a featured news interview. He remained a mechanic, fixing engines by day, healing children in the evenings. "I just did what someone once did for my brother," he would say. But to Eduardo, Sophia, and Luis, he was far more than a mechanic. He was a miracle worker. Sometimes, hope doesn't wear a white coat. Sometimes it wears blue overalls and carries a wrench. The true miracle lies in belief, in trusting that healing can come from the most unexpected hands. Never underestimate someone because of their title. Wisdom, compassion, and healing often live in the hearts of the humble.